We have a ton of great stuff on Redbox free streaming this month as well. So to stick with the true crime or the crime and the thrillers, one of my all-time favorite movies, The Usual Suspects, is on for free on Redbox this month. So great. I mean,
It's such a good movie.
it
The
is such a good movie.
cast is amazing. Oh,
Gabriel Byrne, Kevin Pollak, Benicio del Toro, Chaz Palminteri, Stephen Baldwin, Kevin Spacey,
uh-huh.
when you could talk about such a guy. And I mean, it's an amazing film, considered probably the best neo-noir or post-noir film of all time. The script is just unbelievably gifted. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and was nominated for all kinds of Oscars, which is almost unheard of. But yeah, it's a fabulous film. I actually got to hang out last month with Kevin Pollak for a couple hours at a film premiere of a friend of mine, his movie. And I gotta say, he was the nicest guy. Like sometimes when celebrities come to those things, they like pop in and out, they just make their appearance and they go. There was no press at this thing. He just came to support. He was a friend of the family and like hung out for like 2 hours after the movie and was just lovely. Like, yeah. So anyway,
That's super cool. Yeah, that's in my realm of like you want a good thriller, but it's the who done it and you can't figure it out. Like that one really got me when I watched it.
oh my gosh.
But
I mean,
it's really funny because even today, I'm trying to remember what I was watching. I can't remember if I was, again, I watch random things when I work because I don't have to pay too much attention to it. I can
sure.
still, work, don't
Yeah.
want trouble. But I was watching, I think it was Scorpion, and they had a Kaiser Soze reference, and I was like,
Ah,
it still just pops up, It's like
it does. Yeah. I mean, it's
never
become
goes
like
away.
a pop culture icon that,
Uh-huh.
everybody knows that when you say it. Of course, we're not going to reveal the twist in case anybody hasn't seen it, but in our
Yeah,
defense, it came out 28 years ago. So if you haven't seen
true.
it, that's kind of on you.
True. And just saying Kaiser Soze, I mean, that really technically doesn't give it away, but
No, no.
still. Oh, so good. Oh,
So good. So good.
thank you,
I,
Redbox, for that.
right? Another great one, Flashpoint. So this is directed by Wilson Yip, who directed the Ip Man franchise. And I don't know if you're into chopsaki or martial arts films, but it's I was just telling a coworker earlier today, I think it's my favorite martial arts franchise of the last 20 years. I mean, Donnie Yen is the lead, who was the blind ninja in Rogue One.
Mhm.
Um, Arguably the best of the last 5 Star Wars films.
Yes.
And he just, to me, I knew him because I had seen Ip Man before I saw Rogue One, but he was so transformative in that film that when he walked on the stage, I totally forgot that it was the same guy from Ip Man. And then once he started fighting in that amazing scene where he kills like, 50 Empire soldiers, it's just like it's the great. I love him so much, and he is. So this is more of a like a John Woo crime film. So it's like, he plays the he's not killing stormtroopers, but he's
Right.
killing monsters. So it's him against the Vietnamese mob, but he does all those amazing choreographed fight scenes, and
Wow.
it's one of those things. It's like the first time you watch Jackie Chan, and you're like, "There's no way this guy's doing his own stunts," and yet he is, and so is Donnie Yen. Like it's incredible how talented he is, and so this is a very fun. If you just like hard boiled,
Oh, yeah.
Lethal Weapon type films, this one is pretty spectacular.
Oh, yeah. I've only watched, I'm trying to remember how many in the franchise of Ip Man there are.
There's like 4
Yeah.
official canon, but then there's like 3 or 4 others. I'm not even sure. I think he's only in the first 4, but then there was a bunch of others that I think he's not in, but they're all pretty good. And the ones that he's in are all spectacular.
Right. I just like watching him. Like even
Yeah.
if the storyline was like, just
Yep.
compilations of fight scenes. It's a very fluid
Yep.
movement. It's just
And the first one is actually based on a real guy. Like he was the guy that taught Bruce Lee how to fight. So yeah, it's pretty cool, the kind of the history behind that franchise as well. But Flashpoint, well worth your time.
All right. On the list.
Okay, good. And then sticking with the classic thrillers, we've got, and I got to be honest, I totally forgot that this even had a sequel, Basic Instinct 2.
Oh wow. Oh, that's right. It does.
Yeah. And it's written by Joe Esterhaus, who wrote the first one and about a million other amazing scripts. But yeah, it's starring Sharon Stone. Like, I don't know how I completely forgot that this even existed, but starring Sharon Stone this time, instead of a police detective, she's going up against a psychiatrist played by David Morrissey from The Walking Dead. And it's very similar. There's a murder. They're trying to analyze whether they think she's involved. I might suggest the fact that Basic Instinct 1 might elude you to the fact that she's probably involved, but whatever. And David Morrissey gets drawn into her web of intrigue. It's super fun. If you liked Basic Instinct 1, you're gonna like 2. It's got all the same bells and whistles that the first one had, but it's great.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen 1, and I know I've never seen 2, so I'll definitely have to give it a watch, just because I don't even remember anything really, like, I don't think it was as mentioned as much when it was released. I don't remember commercials. I don't remember theater trailers.
Yep, I know, me neither.
I would have remembered that, but
yeah,
hey, might as well give it a go, right?
For sure. Since it's free, what do you have to lose?
Not much, really.
Another fun thriller, we have White Bird in a Blizzard. This one it's a strange film. It's Shailene Woodley from Big Little Lies plays a young girl who is sort of like going through her usual teen experience, discovering boys, discovering herself, her sexuality, etc. While she's going through this process, she's sort of dealing with her mom, who is brilliantly played by Eva Green, who I loved in Casino Royale, but I didn't realize just how good an actress she was. She is spectacular in this film, and she plays kind of a unhinged, no wire hangers Christina kind of mom, like, but in it, so mom has clearly got issues. You don't know exactly what those are, but one day mom just disappears, and you don't know, did mom take off and start a new life somewhere else? Did mom hook up with a new guy? Did someone do away with mom? Right. If they did, was it dad? Was it the neighbor who she may have been involved with? Like, they sort of drip the story out to you a little at a time.
Right.
And so every time you think, oh, I know what happened, something new gets revealed, and you're like, oh wait, no, I don't know what happened. I'm not sure about anything anymore. Yeah, it's great. Christopher Maloney plays the dad from Law and Order. Really good stuff. White Bird in a Blizzard. If you're looking for, it's a strange sort of stream of consciousness thriller, but it's worth your time.
No, but it still sounds fun. Like, it's whole whodunit thing, or where's this person, or who is where. I like those kinds of things. Makes your brain think. Use it. That's why you got it. So
that's right.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun to watch for sure.
And in the same vein, we've got a great one. This I highly recommend. It is so. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Pacific Heights with Michael Keaton. where Matthew Modine and Melanie Griffith buy a home in the Pacific Heights region in San Francisco, and it's a little out of their price range, so they have to take on a boarder played by Michael Keaton.
I vaguely remember it. Yes.
He's brilliant in this film. He seems like he's this like baller with all this money, and it ends up he's a con artist, and like he goes in and like rips them off and you know causes them to lose the house and all this stuff. And it's a similar kind of like you see it coming about 10 feet before the main characters do, and there's nothing you can do to stop them, and it's so difficult to watch. So the ones below, it's Clemence Posey, who is in Tenet and in Bruges and a million other things. She's absolutely brilliant. And again, David Morrissey from Basic Instinct 2. And they play a couple who are expecting. They move into this new apartment. It ends up that there's a couple downstairs. They're also expecting, and they're like, oh, this is amazing. We have this shared experience. Let's be best friends. Oh, no. And as the relationship progresses, every time there's a scene, they just crank it down a little more until you're like, no, nobody should ever be friends with these people, but they can't see it until it's too late.
Oh, that's so bad.
It's so good. The ones below, if you are looking for like, there's sometimes those nights that you're like, I just want to be like completely on edge. I'm gonna get a glass of wine and watch this. This is the one for you. It's really good.
Those are the ones where I'm sitting there screaming at the TV, and so I'll have to probably watch that one on my own.
Absolutely. We also have this is a fantastic film, Two Faces of January, which is one like I'm like, I don't know how I missed this, because it's fantastic and the cast is spectacular. Viggo Mortensen, who is one of my all-time favorites, and my wife is absolutely in love with him, admittedly. And Kirsten Dunst. They play a couple. They're in Athens on vacation. You get the story. It's actually written by the same guy who wrote The Talented Mr. Ripley. And then it's by the screenwriter and the producers of Drive. So they really know this genre really well, sort of like the psychological thrillers. So Viggo Mortensen and Kirsten Dunst are this couple. You get the idea that Viggo's not on the level, that there's something going on that she doesn't know about. And while they're there, somebody knocks on their hotel room door one night. He and Viggo, and it's this older, kind of tough looking guy, they go into another room to have a private discussion while Kirsten Dunst is in bed, and something happens in the other room that is not great. And I'm not going to spill anything, but needless to say, they have to get out of the country. And while all this is going on, they are observed by Oscar Isaac, he plays like the hot pool boy, just happens to see what's going on. And now he's involved, even though he doesn't want to be involved at all. And it's got that, the Talented Mr. Ripley, where like you've got these very poppy characters, and yet you've got this sort of tense storyline going on at the same time. It's pretty spectacular. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Two Faces of January. You want to check it out.
Wow. Yeah, on the list, 100%.
Okay. And then the last one for Redbox, and I'm only throwing this in because I know that you do enjoy the horror, and I have a feeling you might not have seen this one. So this is a super fun one called Splinter. Have you seen that?
The name doesn't ring a bell, so this may be what I haven't seen.
So it's kind of like trying to think. Don't Breathe, if you saw that one. It's kind of like Don't Breathe. So it's a contained horror film that takes place in a gas station in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night. So Shea Wiggum and Jill Wagner play a couple, and they stop in at this gas station that seems innocuous enough. And then while they're in the gas station, something outside happens. You can't really tell exactly what's going on, but the employee at the gas station all of a sudden gets infected with these big black splinters that basically are like a fungus that takes over his body in like 1 second. And he basically turns into this gigantic splintered mess. And you come to find out that there's some sort of a creature or an entity or something outside the gas station that has just done this. And they have to protect themselves and figure out, A, what in the heck is going on? B, how do we kill this thing? And C, how do we get out of here alive? It's fun. It's super tense. I apologize that I've given you nothing to relax with on Redbox this month, but it's very fun. And I love contained horror films. So yeah, it's super fun. So Splinter, check that one out.
All right, it's on the list. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to find something to also throw in there, like I don't know. I'll watch an anime or something. No, even
well, luckily we've got tons of new stuff on Chicken Soup for the Soul. And as you know, they've got all kinds of great comfort viewing for you. So after you get all stressed out at the Redbox thrillers, you can go to Chicken Soup for the Soul, and you can get refreshed, as they say.
Yeah, we'll just hop through. We'll watch Splinter, and then we'll go on to whatever you got for me now.
How about Highway to Heaven? I can't think of anything that is more of a comforting hug than the Michael Landon classic Highway to Heaven.
I loved that show.
Who didn't? I don't trust people that don't like Highway to Heaven. Come on now. He was America's dad, for crying out loud, for like 20 years between this and Little House on the Prairie. And Victor French, who is the co-star of Highway to Heaven, was also one of the leads in Little House on the Prairie as well. And they just continued the magic that they made there. Highway to Heaven, Michael Landon obviously played a sort of fledgling angel who's trying to get his union card, so to speak. And he gets sent down to work with Victor French, who's like this cranky ex-police officer. And they have to go, wander the country and help change people's lives. So it's a beloved series. It does incredibly well for us, and we just got some fresh episodes, and so we're very excited about that.
Yeah. So after watching some crazy horror film, that'll definitely be a nice palate cleanser for sure.
Yes. Yeah. I've got a bunch. Bromwell is another one that's really great. So I was one of the last people to the Victorian drama party. I went kicking and screaming to Downton Abbey, and I fell in love with it and binged as quickly as I could through however many seasons there are. And then there's all those Bridgerton and this and that, and but it's finite. People are running out, so we've got another one for you, Bromwell. It's great. Gemma Redgrave, who's the lead in Howard's End. It's basically Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman meets Downton Abbey. So it's a Victorian drama. She plays a doctor who decides to open up a free clinic in the poorest neighborhood of London.
Oh, wow.
So not only does she have to overcome just the difficulty of trying to care for people in a marginalized society there, but also she has to overcome all the stereotypes of being a woman in what at the time was like completely male dominated medical field.
Right.
And it's great. All the performances are spectacular. It's exactly what you love in British drama. Just super talented actors, and the storyline is lovely, and it'll be balm for your soul.
Yay. That sounds excellent. Yes. I mean, who doesn't love that type of, show? So I would definitely be watching that one.
And we've got another one in that same vein, Doc Martin, which sounds like it's a documentary on hipster shoes, but it's not. It's so this is an awesome series. It's starring Martin Clunes, who is one of the leads in Shakespeare in Love. He is such a talented actor. So he plays this savant surgeon who's like the most brilliant medical mind in all of England, has a nervous breakdown. In order to recuperate, he takes a job as a country doctor in the hinterlands of England, shows up, he's probably on the spectrum somewhere, doesn't handle people as a class very well, and immediately starts butting heads with the locals who, they're used to this folksy guy who, used to give him a hug and a rub on the head and send him out the door. And now they've got, Doc Martin there, who's like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Like, just has zero bedside manner. And it is awesome. It's what I feel like the British do so well that sometimes we struggle with, but like shows like MASH, where you're like, I don't know, is it a drama? Is it a comedy? Like, I feel like the British just thread the needle with that kind of stuff so well. And this is a great example, because you really, I couldn't tell you what it is, whether it's a drama or a comedy, because there's perfect weaving of both elements. Doc Martin, we've got like 10 seasons or some crazy thing.
Wow.
There are a ton of episodes. So if you're looking for your next Brit fix, you definitely want to check out Doc Martin, because it's great.
Yeah, I absolutely love like British shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it's easy for me to understand the humor, or, they're really well written.
They are.
Even if they're not, like, even if they're using slang, they still sound extremely intelligent when they're
Don't they?
saying things. I'm like, oh, you just called someone a toad, but it sounds
right.
posh. So
yes,
okay.
It does sound posh.
But it's just they're just so well written and really like well done. And they always have like you said, you never know if it's, unless if it really truly is a comedy or action, whatever.
Yep.
For the most part, they're really well blended. So that sounds like a really like fun one to watch, because again, I loved MASH. So if you're kind of using that as an example of, the comedy versus the drama,
yes,
then this will definitely, I know it's not that type of show, but
no, but still, yeah, for sure.
The genre in itself, that just sounds like a lot of fun. So for sure, another thing to watch. Yes.
And speaking of British performers who I love, I am a gigantic fan, not only of him as a performer, but also as a person. Pierce Brosnan.
Oh, yeah.
We have got, it's crazy star-studded, and I don't know how I missed it, but it's a beautiful little film. It's called A Long Way Down, and it stars Pierce Brosnan, but it also has Toni Collette and Imogen Poots, who just has a fun name to say.
I know.
And Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad, who's one of my all-time favorite characters. But it's about all four of them have decided that they have come to the end of themselves. They are going to take their own lives, and they're going to do it on New Year's Eve by throwing themselves off this specific building. And all four of them show up to the top of the same building, and they're like, what are you doing? This is my building. You can't do this. And so because they're so irritated that these other people are like screwing up their plan, it ends up like throwing off the mojo, and they all decide to call it off. And then through these relationships, they make a pact to try to help each other work through everything they have going on. And it's a really great film, really well written. All the performances are spectacular. Again, it's one of those that sort of just like, it puts your parts together. But yeah, I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was great.
That sounds like a great premise. I just love the fact that they're all like, what the hell are you doing here? This is my place.
I know. This is my building.
This is not yours. This is mine. It's
you
like
have a reservation.
Oh, that one sounds really, really fun.
And then just to keep the feel-good parade going, one of my all-time favorite films, even though I was embarrassed to admit it when I was a kid, is On Golden Pond.
Oh no,
Yeah,
so good.
that's the proper reaction. Well done, Raven.
Everybody should see that. Like,
They
I feel
should.
like it changes people's hearts. Like,
Yeah,
if you are just a cold person, I feel like this would, degrinchify you in some way, shape. Oh, it's so good.
it is so good. Henry Fonda, Katharine Hepburn, award winning. I think she won Best Actress for this.
I think she did, yeah.
Yeah,
Just that.
and it's just beautiful, and having Henry Fonda in that is sort of dealing with dementia, and there's a lot of story elements that have to do with getting old, and just having gone through that personally, it makes that the film even more beautiful as you watch it. I mean, both their performances are just really two of the best performances in film history, and it's just a beautiful, touching film. So On Golden Pond, Academy Award winner, highly recommend checking that one out.
Yeah, that's again one of those movies that like I watched as a child, didn't quite grasp
Mm-mm.
because it does have some adult like dealing undertones.
Sure.
But because my best friend's dad had dementia, um, it's we see these things more, and as an adult, you start to understand and see things that as a child are just completely different.
Yeah.
So watching it again as an adult, it had a completely different feel, and I still absolutely loved it. And it's nice to think, around things that I watched in my childhood. Look, there are a lot of movies in the 80s that ruined my childhood. Like
Totally.
the never ending story molded me in a completely different way. Okay. Like there's no
Sure.
way. How did we survive? And then you
Right. Come on, Falcor.
this that you can go in and watch, and it just kind of brings it all back to, just not never ending story.
Totally. Totally.
But yeah, I definitely, that is one that I will recommend for people to watch 110%. Not that any of the others are bad.
Of course.
I just know this one to be like absolute, everybody should watch for sure.
Yes. It is a cinematic hug for
Mhm.
sure.
Oh,
Yep.
I love it. I love it.
And then